My name is Francesco Dovidia. I work for the International Labour Organization.
I'm Gerard Oonk and I'm working with the Stop Child Labour Coalition.
I'm Olivier Laboule and I work for the International Cocoa Foundation.
My name is Leonie Blokhuis. I work for the Fair Labour Association.
My name is Owen Bethel. I'm a Global Issue and Communications Manager for Nestle.
My name is Fernando Morales de la Cruz. I'm from Cacao and Café for Change.
ILO has been working on child labour for many years. Child labour is a global issue. What is driving the ILO are the international labour standards, the convention of the ILO that are adopted and then legally binding for the member states. In cocoa sector in particular, we have been working since 2000. A lot of intervention were initially based on ensuring that the children were withdrawn from the workplace, and that worked, but it's very costly and it's very slow. So that's why we thought it was important to have a decent work approach to the issue, more holistic, not only to targeting the children, but also the entire communities and the families. Basically, if you provide decent work opportunities to parents and the families, then there is no need for child labor.
As a coalition, we work in Africa, including a little bit in cocoa communities, but also in other communities in Uganda, Mali, various other countries. And the basic idea of this approach that you really involve the people that you need to involve locally to make it happen. So it's not an approach from above or a blueprint. It's in fact the basic idea that you need to mobilize not only local people, but also local community leaders, local village leaders, teachers, not to forget, the children themselves, especially younger people who are going to school and feel that their peers also should go to school. And when you move it up, from the local level to the district level or even to the state level, of course you need other players to come in. You have to appeal to the government to do what is often there already on paper. It can be the district government, the way they deal with the education system. For example, making it very difficult for children who want to get out of work and into school to register or to get all their papers together, because they often come from families that are illiterate. So you have to slash some of those barriers to get into the education system, because this education system is often geared to those who are already coming and not the ones who are caught in labor.
ICI is a multi-stakeholder initiative. Its membership is comprised of both industry members and non-industry members, NGOs or international organizations. And in dealing with such complex issues as child labor in cocoa, I think it's very important to have as many actors as possible around the table. And that has certainly proven to be very effective in creating a pre-competitive platform where industry partners can also exchange best practices and talk about their challenges and what works. Very specifically, ICI works on child labor monitoring and remediation systems. These are systems embedded in the supply chain of chocolate manufacturers and cocoa suppliers that allow a company to know their supply chain all the way down to the producer and to identify child labor risks, and when those are found, to provide a solution to those. This, however, doesn't allow necessarily to reach far beyond or at an adequate level for the entire community. And therefore, ICI always tries to combine an approach that is based on the supply chain with an approach that is based on the entire community, what we call the community development approach. And so those two things combined, I believe, can have a very significant impact on child labor. And some internal evaluation that ICI did in 2017 show that 3 years after the implementation of such a system, 51% of the children that were identified were no longer doing the tasks that they were identified for.
Key of the FLA program is that we hold companies accountable. They need to meet the requirements and principles of the FLA on social standards. It's about improving workers' lives within the full supply chain. And within the agricultural sector, we specifically look at the issues also at farm level. And what we do is we have yearly independent external monitoring visits. That's being done in Ivory Coast. And we visit the cooperatives, the communities, the families themselves, having interviews with them, really trying to get in-depth insight in their labor situation, So it's looking at child labor, but not only that, also looking at other situations, including forced labor, working hours. Based on that, we have reports that come out, including the recommendations, so the risks and issues. And the companies need to come up with a corrective action plan. And we hold the companies accountable that they follow up to that. And the year after, we do visits again, look at the progress being made.
Child labour is an issue that we take very seriously. It's an issue that's endemic to the cocoa sector, and as a company that relies on a sustainable supply of cocoa, it's really important for us to create resilient and sustainable communities where we source our raw materials from. So in 2011 we started working with the Fair Labour Association to look into whether there was child labour in our supply chain. Their investigation found that there was and provided a series of recommendations. One of those was to work with a partner to create a system for monitoring and providing solutions for children affected by child labour. From that, we created something called the Child Labour Monitoring and Remediation System with the International Cocoa Initiative. And that's now been in operation for 6 years in total in Côte d'Ivoire, and is looking at identifying children at risk and providing solutions tailored to their individual situations.
Child labor is a consequence of extreme poverty. So if we really want to solve child labor, we first have to address extreme poverty in cocoa. And it's impossible if we don't consider the price of cocoa. The challenge here is to discuss a really serious change of business model. And what I'm proposing is that we work on a transparent shared value system. That means that we are actually going to take a few cents from the consumer and send them back to the people who actually produce the cocoa. But thinking that these people have the legal right to live with dignity, and they also have to take their children to school, and they also need childcare, and they also need infrastructure and living wages. And if we want to do that, we can do it with only 10 cents per candy bar or for a cup of cocoa. But it's very easy to say we are doing something. The question is, are we doing enough?